Why the hell did I put $20,000 of mods in my ND Miata? Oh yeah, that is some torque right there. We're going to be diving into overall the experience of driving a Turbo ND Miata with $20,000 of mods in it. Not only that, we'll be talking about some other features, some exterior mods, what has been done on this car, how has it changed overall the dynamic of this car, and then we'll do some POV driving to really hone in on the sound of this car, how it handles, and overall the experience of driving one of these unique vehicles. So I think the first obvious question is, what makes this car have over $20,000 of mods in it? For starters, this car is turbocharged, which immediately adds a lot of dollars to this car. Turbocharging your Miata all in when you factor in transmission swapping, clutches, the adapter plates, the turbo, maybe some other things like swapping the intercooler out, you're looking at about $8,000 for just that alone. Right after CHP rolls by. Look at that, yikes. Stay safe in these canyons, guys. Anyways, we're talking about the Miatas here. So we talked about the turbo. Yes, that adds a lot of dollars to the car. Of course, we can see here we got rims. We have tires. We also have aftermarket calipers in this Miata, the Wilwoods, 4 pistons. Stock rear calipers though. If we zoom in here, we got the tow hook, of course. We have the Spider front grille. Yeah, I just washed my car yesterday, and by driving this car in the canyon for 2 days, the front is already littered. It's like an absolute massacre in the front of this car. So you basically have to wash your car every day after you go into the canyons. But exterior wise, not much else is done to the car. We have the stubby front antenna, which is a must-have mod for your Miatas, guys. Absolute must-have. We have a little bit of, we also put black plasti dip on the logo. I think the black really makes this car kind of come together. I think the silver logos kind of stood out too much on the Miatas. So I think the black kind of blends in with the antenna, with the top roof, with the tires. There's not much else silver on this car, so I think the black logos kind of blend everything in on this car. So if we come in here, we'll be talking about the interior mods too. I see there's definitely some things in here that have been modded, but let's go pop the hood really quick. See what's in here. So under the hood, everything looks mostly stock, but that's quite deceiving because this car is anything but stock. But if CHP opens this hood, you tell me, can you tell that this car has been modified? I couldn't really, honestly. Well, actually I could because I modified everything in here. So if we really zoom in here, we can see that turbocharger hidden nice and sneakily down there. It's quite a stealth install. These are the Evo turbo kits. This turbo kit is very stealth. Like, you would be hard pressed to tell me this car is turbocharged. I've had a police officer open up this hood and they couldn't tell that this car was modified. So we have an aftermarket radiator as well, which adds some cost. We have an aftermarket intercooler. We have an oil cooler as well. Lots of radiators in the front of this Miata. See that silver? That is your oil cooler right there. And we can see the absolute massacre of bugs here. This is unbelievable. So in terms of suspension mods, we got shocks, we have springs, we have sway bars on this car. We have the Coney shocks, Swift springs. We have the Goodwin Racing sway bars, front and rear. Oh, and then the exhaust. We have completely straight piped exhaust. So, that adds to the noise quite a bit, but makes this car breathe so well. It's phenomenal. So I guess you guys can start seeing how this number is easily adding up closer and closer to, $20,000. And that's disregarding any kind of labor. All of this yourself, $20,000, basically the value of this car stock. So anyways, enough talking. Let's go close this hood and let's go for a drive. At the very last thing, as we get into the car, we definitely see a couple modifications. We have the Uniden R7 radar detector, must have, has already saved me twice, and I've only had this radar detector for like 2-3 weeks. Definitely helpful. It works very well, especially if you're up in the canyons or on highways, or especially going on long distance drives. We also have the aftermarket speedometer where it says danger, do not use. I wonder why that's there. I'm not sure. But anyways, here is the boost gauge. We have also an oil temperature gauge, so you know when you could drive your car hard or when we're overheating a little bit. Boost gauge for figuring out if we're running proper boost. We're not over boosting, we're not under boosting. Great for determining the health of your turbocharged ND Miata. We got the NC Miata transmission right here. Hard to tell from here. It definitely feels more notchy, a little bit more like heavier and more robust. So let's start her up and let's switch POVs, guys. All right, let's start her up. What you're gonna immediately notice is that this exhaust is pretty loud. I mean, it is completely straight piped. Okay, thank you, Uniden. Thank you for the logo. Thank you for the load up sound. Okay, so yeah, this car is very quiet during idle, which is great if you're around police or anything, because at idle you can hardly tell this car is modified. But when we hit the throttle a little bit, you can definitely tell something is going on under the hood. So let's go drive. Immediately I noticed the clutch is heavier than normal ND Miatas. That is because we actually have an NC Miata transmission in this car with an aftermarket clutch, which makes everything a lot more stiff down there, transmission wise, with the pressure plate, so everything is definitely more stiff underneath. Also, there is no drone in the cabin, which is surprising. It's probably because of the straight piped exhaust, because there's no mufflers, there's nothing preventing any kind of noise from bouncing off of each other, like in a muffler, so it just goes straight out the back. All that noise, all that drone is going out there. I noticed when I put the muffler, because I have the Goodwin Racing exhaust, if I slide in the baffle to engage the muffler, definitely gonna get some drone there, but with this noise, it's totally manageable, and it sounds great. You can immediately feel the turbo torque. I'm at 3,000 RPM. You can see the boost gauge here. Once we get into boost, you can really feel that torque very quickly. All right, let's give her some gas and see how much power this thing makes. Oh yeah, that is some torque right there. Nice. This car can get up and go, and it means it. All of that torque down there in these low gears, because the Miata gearing is already really short, so 250 foot-pounds of torque doesn't sound like a lot, but when we pair it to such a short gearing, man, second gear, third gear is so addictive and fun, it's unbelievable. Just feel how quick it rises in those RPMs. Oh my God, it's so addictive, guys. And the handling on point with the aftermarket tires and suspension shocks, sway bars. Oh, and you can just hear that exhaust, that backfire. I hope you guys can get a little taste of just how this car feels in the driver's seat. Just unbelievable. On the dime, steering is phenomenal. It's nice and light, but these Miata steering is just awesome. This is the OEM steering though, but you can really feel these Nitto NT05 tires come through the chassis to your steering wheel. It thrives in these corners in second and third gear. This is the Miata's home. Just autocross, being able to pivot its entire body super quickly. That's what these Miatas are really good at, because there's not a lot of mass on these cars. So it's easy to move this mass back and forth super fast, you know, how you see fit. With cars with more mass, you know, you'll see those tires overheating really fast. You know, brakes are fading because there's just so much mass that has to be slowed down and moved. But with these Miatas, there isn't as much mass. You know, it's like 2,300 pounds is how much this car weighs. So 250 horsepower, 250 torque with the turbo, this really goes a long way in this car. I mean, power to weight ratio is already, I mean, weight to power is like 10 to 1. a little bit above because we got 250 horsepower instead of 230. So definitely we're in that sweet spot for just optimal driver experience, and it really shows. I mean, you saw there, we were in 3,500 RPM and we got full boost power all the way through. And when you don't want to go race, you know, throw it into 6th gear, quiet as can be. You know, it only really wakes up when you want it to. So if we're on full throttle, yes, it's going to be super loud and just visceral. But when we put it into 6th gear and cruise, it's like we don't even have an exhaust at all. And you can just enjoy the weather with the top down and just enjoy the car for how it is. But when you want to race it, those $20,000 of mods really come through on this Miata, and you know what's up. It's not screwing around. Although this car is not screwing around and will grow with you, you know, it's surprisingly easy to get, you know, acquainted to, because we don't have a ton of horsepower and we have a lot of grip on this car. So even with traction control off, you can still hone the car in. It's not going to do anything stupid. It's not going to jump in your face and try to throw you off the road unless you kind of make it, you know. It wants to stay on track and keep going to its goal. So I think it's really easy to kind of learn and to drive these cars, especially with all these mods on it. The driver experience, I think, is just unparalleled. I've driven cars an order of magnitude more expensive than this Mazda Miata, and there's just something really simple, foundational, and just fun about these Miatas, how they drive. Especially with all of these mods on it, I think it really makes this car into a whole nother beast. Something that few other cars can really rival in terms of just pure, raw adrenaline and fun at this price point. I mean, granted, we got $20,000 of mods on this car, so this thing kind of departs what I think Mazda intended this car to be. So I've driven a stock ND Miata recently, and I'll tell you guys exactly the differences I've noticed in this car versus a stock ND Miata right now. So when I drove my friend's stock ND Miata, I noticed a lot of different things. First off was the transmission. I am used to this NC Miata transmission, but when I went on to the ND Miata transmission, I just noticed the feel was totally different. It felt like a lot smaller of a transmission. That's the best way I can put it. You know, gearing felt a lot more playful and like easy to use, which is good. I think the ND Miata transmission is a phenomenal transmission if you want to keep the car mostly stock. But if we're putting a turbo into this car, we got to build up the transmission, or at the very least get an NC Miata transmission, which is what we got here. So that's my immediate first impression. And the clutch feel, of course, too. Much heavier clutch on this Miata. And also, on top of that is the throttle response, and I think the power, of course. I think the ND Miata stock is a little bit low on power, but I think that's what the car was meant to be. It's meant to be a low horsepower, fun car. But then when we hop into this car, I mean, it just sounds like a freaking Banshee compared to a stock ND Miata. So, you know, you can kind of compare how this car feels like in this POV drive compared to a stock Miata if you have it. You know, I think they're totally different cars, but I can't say they're different cars, you know. Like, I mean, they're different, but it's still the same car, you know. If we have a boat and we take one plank off, plank by plank, you know, at what point is it going to be a different boat, you know? So we're probably somewhere in the middle here. I mean, it's still a Miata, but I think it competes with a lot higher class of vehicles, but still maintains the roots of what a Miata is. It takes everything fun about a Miata and then just kind of cranks up a notch, like by 3 or 4, the aspects of the car that could be improved, like power, a little bit of handling, you know, like the sway when we're going back and forth, you know. Those are kind of slight issues on the ND Miata that will be fixed with a car with all of these mods on it. So it just kind of takes the good of the Miata and just puts it on steroids, is what I've noticed, in my opinion. So would you guys put $20,000 of mods on your ND Miata? I'm really curious to hear what you guys think.